Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and there's only a 2-game slate tomorrow. Didn't really feel like making a video about that slate. I think JDG and EDG are going to win. There's nothing really to say about that. Rare Atom has a chance, theoretically. JDG hasn't looked great, and Rare Atom hasn't looked great either, but if I was playing that slate, I'd play JDG. I'm probably not playing that slate because I hate 2-game slates. But in this video, I'm going to do a little bit of a recap for all of the regions that we've seen. Now everybody's in play, so we're like back in the full swing of things with League of Legends. We're going to start in the LCS, then we're going to go LEC, LCK, LPL. And I'll have my tier list set up on my other screen. So I'm just going to go team by team. We can discuss how they've played in the LCS lock-in so far, and then touch on some of the talking points, I guess. So first up is 100 Thieves. So going into this season, 100 Thieves acquired 4 players from Golden Guardians, so they are basically Golden Guardians from last year, but they swapped out Hauntzer for Someday, so obviously that's an upgrade. Before the lock-in tournament started, I said that I wouldn't be shocked if 100 Thieves won this because they have a little bit of an advantage with more consistency with their roster. But at the same time, I still don't think that they're going to win this tournament. They are up against C9 in the next round. I would assume C9 beats them. Even though C9 hasn't looked great, their talent is just much better. So I'm going to start throwing these into my tier list, and then I'll try to think of it a little closer. So Someday, let's get the scoreboards, because we can like kind of go through champion pools and stuff to watch out for in the future as well. So show entire page. All right, so against TSM has consistently had bad drafts. We're going to do TSM next. So 100 Thieves has played Renekton, Taliyah. Damonte is still playing all of his global champions. I'm not sure why teams aren't banning that out. Even somebody made a joke about that on the cast. Like, he's gonna play one of like 3 or 4 champions, ban some of those champions, and see what happens. So like ban Galio, ban Twisted Fate, and then see what he can do. And I assume that's what C9 would do, or they would let him pick the TF or the Galio, and then Perkz would counter pick it, which I think is a realistic approach. I think it's a smart approach. So that's 100 Thieves. Let's see what they did in the quarterfinals. It was a cakewalk against Immortals. This is Immortals Academy team, so you get no credit for this win. Good job, 100 Thieves. You beat an Academy team. Again, we see Renekton. So I think without going through all of the teams yet, I'm just going to assume where I'm going to have 100 Thieves. I think 100 Thieves is probably a top 4 team in the LCS right now. I'm sure that's roughly what I had them before all of this started. But let's see where I have everybody else. So next up, let's just go back to the order, I guess. Next up, Cloud9. So Cloud9, there's really not much to say here. Cloud9 hasn't looked as good as everyone wants them to. They lost a game against TSM, but TSM is better than what they've shown so far. C9 is better than what they've shown so far as well. Fudge hasn't played great, but hasn't had a lot of matchups to take advantage of. Blabber is still Blabber. He had a really good Taliyah game, I believe. Perkz has been pretty mediocre so far and hasn't been involved in a lot of the team fights. Somebody posted, I think it was Oracle's Elixir, posted something about Perkz' CS percentage. I'm not really looking at stuff like that. It's not going to be predictive. Perkz is not going to be that kind of player long term. A little bit of a slump for Perkz, maybe, if anything, but I'm not afraid of this. I think that they'll go up against 100 Thieves, and Cloud9 will destroy 100 Thieves, and I wouldn't be surprised if Perkz had like ridiculous games in mid lane, especially against someone like Damonte. You see somebody like Perkz. If Damonte locks in Twisted Fate or Galio, Perkz plays Lucian, and just dominates the lane. I think that's probably where we're going with that. C9 still, in my opinion, the best team in North America. I have them as the highest rated team, and that's not going to change. Next up, CLG. They are missing Finn still, but Finn's coming in. Griffin is Wiggly, then Pobelter, Wild Turtle, Smoothie. Do they have somebody else playing in this too? Either way, I don't like CLG. I don't like the players they have. Pobelter is whatever. Finn, I think it's funny how they went after Finn. I don't think Finn's a good player. Oh, and Broxa's coming in too. So Brox is the best player on the team. Isn't here yet, I guess, or at least isn't playing. I'm gonna throw them considerably lower than a team like 100 Thieves. Loses to Golden Guardians, that's a bad loss. Beats 100 Thieves, that's a good win. Loses to TSM, they're expected to lose to TSM. And this isn't their full roster. So personally, I don't like their roster. I think that it's going to be bad once we get into the tournament, into the regular season. Sorry. Let's just go to the next team. Dignitas. Dignitas has been very good and very bad in this tournament. So they beat FlyQuest. In my opinion, they should beat FlyQuest. Dignitas against Immortals. They should have won this game. The Karthus pick was pretty bad. Just didn't like the draft there, which it seems to happen a lot with Dardoch teams where they get a lot of these really bad drafts. I don't know if it's his fault or the coach's fault. Just pretty horrible. Fake God has looked okay so far. Nothing special. But I think there will be matches that Fake God is able to put together big score lines and kind of carry with Dardoch. Just because of... It's a lot of it has to do with Dardoch, but still. That's just how I look at it. So Dignitas compared to CLG, they're about the same. I would expect CLG to... they're about the same. Evil Genius has looked really good so far. I don't think they're as good as C9. They're probably right around 100 Thieves. I'll make a decision between those two in a little bit. FlyQuest, since Jose Diodo came in, they've looked better. But I think that the hype is getting a little overblown, which is good, because that's something we can take advantage of in the regular season when that begins. I expect them to lose to FlyQuest, or to Team Liquid. Even if they beat Team Liquid, I'm being 100% honest with you. I will actively play against them during the regular season. The FlyQuest is the kind of team that I want to do well so that I can bet against them constantly. Do we have a schedule? I guess we don't have a schedule yet for the LCS, but watch out for that. That's a team I'm going to be betting against because the hype around them is getting to be too big, in my opinion. But Licorice is a good player. Jose Diodo is okay. Palafox is okay. Johnson and Diamond are both okay. I do like the Misfortune Seraphine bot lane they ran. We've seen that in a couple different regions so far. It's a good combination. It means that they are looking for good combos during the draft phase, which is, there is value in that. I'm not trying to discount that altogether, but they are probably in the same tier as CLG and Dignitas, maybe the best out of those three teams, but that's not saying much in my opinion. Golden Guardians has looked better than people assumed, including myself. I thought they'd be worse, but they've done some interesting things in draft, which is good because it's how you want to see these teams play when they're not expected to win. Like they had a Quinn game that like completely blew up in their face, but I like the idea of like pulling out that kind of pick. So they went Gangplank against CLG. They won that one. They went Camille. They lost that one to TSM, and then they had the Quinn game. Where's the Quinn game? Quinn against 100 Thieves, and that one kind of exploded in their face. He played the level 1 well against Someday and started to create a little edge in the lane, but then like instantly gave it up. So I think Golden Guardians is still at the bottom, but maybe they're not much worse than Dignitas, CLG, and FlyQuest. It might be closer than I thought. in the past. I'm not 100% sure. Actually, let's not do that. I'm not 100% sure who the starting lineup is going to be for Immortals. I just forget. Okay, so Revenge, Xerxes, Insanity. So they're down here as well. And then Team Liquid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Couldn't see TSM. The way I see it is there are the top teams, and then there's kind of everyone else. It's really half and half. So this is what I'm kind of looking at. And it's actually a little difficult to see on my screen because of the glare. But C9 is the best team. They're going to end the season as the best team. Team Liquid is the second best team right now. I think that they're going to be very competitive all year. TSM is kind of the dark horse for me. I think that TSM is going to end up in the A tier. I think that they're better than Evil Geniuses and 100 Thieves. But they have been playing kind of bad so far, and their drafts have been really bad so far. But that's the kind of thing that you're going to be able to figure out over time. And that's really it. That's just more about talent evaluation, like who I'm highly rating and who I'm not highly rating. So if we look at the good teams, like the bad teams are not as good teams. All 5 of them can play each other and get wins off of each other. I'm just not really interested in that side of things. None of them are going to be very competitive in playoffs when we get there. These 5 teams have, like, they could all make the finals, in my opinion. So if we go top lane, Someday, Fudge, Alphari, Huni, and Impact. The top lane's really not great out of those 5 players. Like, they're all pretty similar. Some have upside and some have downside. Huni, everybody's probably very, very low on Huni right now because he hasn't played well. He's been stuck on Gnar a couple of games. If Huni is the one forcing his team to pick Gnar, then it's his fault. If it's Bjergsen, then I don't blame Huni at all. Fudge hasn't looked great so far, but I'm sure they'll be good enough as time goes on. Alphari has looked okay. Every time that Alphari has a lot of kills, they're going to get way too much credit for it, I think. Normally, kills are a result of good team play, not good individual play. But I'm not sure how that's really going to come out of the wash in ownership. And then Impact and Someday are both veterans. So, I mean, everybody's going to say right now Alphari's the best. Fudge is probably 3rd or 4th, and then Someday and Impact are 2nd or 3rd or 4th, depending on how you look at it. And then Huni's probably the worst out of these 5, according to most people. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind. Do you agree with that, or do you disagree with that? In the jungle, Closer, Blabber, Spica, Svenskeren, and Santorin are the 5 junglers we're going to see during the regular season. Blabber is the best. Spica and Santorin are both very good in my opinion. Closer's very good for North America. And then Svenskeren's probably the worst out of those 5 junglers. But they all can play against one another. They're all pretty versatile junglers. Spica's probably the least versatile. But maybe he plays better this season and kind of matures into a more all-around jungler, which is not necessarily a good thing. If you're very good at one thing, I'd prefer if you just did that one thing that you're very good at. In the mid lane, Damonte, Perks, Jizuke, Jensen, and Power of Evil. Perks is the best mid laner out of these 5 players. He hasn't looked like it so far. Jensen and Power of Evil are probably 2nd and 3rd in some order. I prefer Power of Evil. And then Jizuke and Damonte are 4th and 5th. I prefer Jizuke over Damonte. Damonte is basically Teacher Ma, just from North America. From the 80 carries, FBI's Ven, Deftly, Tactical, and Lost. I think that Sven is probably still the best 80 carry in North America. Deftly, Tactical, and FBI have been being talked about a lot because people want to like have a new name to talk about. But when we get these teams playing up against one another, Sven is more likely to have a good game than the other one. He's just a more consistent player, better overall. People, myself included, like falling in love with these young players, but at the end of the day, if you had one match to win, I think most people would pick Sven over those other players. And then Lost is definitely in 5th place out of these 580 carries. I don't know enough about Lost to have a higher opinion than that. And then for the supports, Huhi, Vulcan, Ignar, Core JJ, and Sword Art. Vulcan, Sword Art, Core JJ, and Ignar are all very, very, very good supports. Like, they could probably play in multiple regions, all of them. And then Huhi is a good North American support, but not a great support overall. So they would be the last in terms of that. And then, honestly, for coaches, Bjergsen's the worst coach out of these 5 right now. I don't think that's going to stay like that for a while. Or I don't think it's going to stay like that long term. But right now, Bjergsen has performed the worst out of all these coaches. But that's basically it. So like I said, I think if this was like a end of the year kind of thing, I would expect C9 to be in first place, Team Liquid and TSM to ultimately get a little bit above 100 Thieves and Evil Geniuses. So like in the finals, I think we'll see 2 of the 3 teams at the top. And then Evil Geniuses and 100 Thieves, they'll probably look very good and very bad during the split. 100 Thieves is interesting because they're going to have a lot of wins just from macro play, which is definitely a benefit. But once you start playing against the better teams, that's not going to be a huge advantage. So I don't have Evil Geniuses or 100 Thieves in a specific order. And there's mobility between them and TSM. But there's also mobility for TSM to be the best team in North America. I think at the end of the day it's possible, but that's going to have everything break right for them. Spica's going to have to evolve as a jungler. Power of Evil is going to have to play very well. Huni's going to have a more diverse champion pool, or at least champions that their team is willing to pick. And then Sword Art and Lost are going to have to play better as well. It's been tough so far for Sword Art because when your team's not playing great, there's not a lot to do. So we'll do LCS week 1. Save. And I'll probably post that at some point. Let's go into the LEC. So actually, game 5 is probably on right now. Let's see if G2 tries to steal all my money. Not much happening so far. I had a Misfits lineup that it didn't get up to first place, which kind of stinks. I was like a 2v2 away, I think. But okay, let's talk about the LEC. I forget what my tier list looked like before, but I assume it had Astralis in last. So White Knight, Zanzara, Nuke Duck, Jessica, Promiscu. They ended up winning a match today against Vitality. And it's funny because before the day started, everybody was saying like Vitality, top 4 team. I think it was Deficio that was talking about that. Not exactly how I see it, but I do like some of the players. So yeah, the 2 bottom teams that I called free wins were Origin and SK Gaming. SK Gaming is 1 and 2 so far, but they're not as bad as their record. They actually looked somewhat competitive. I'm assuming SK is actually up there, and I think I just had Astralis as in like last by far. Let's go from let's go top to bottom. So G2 is the best team, and they mentioned it on the stream. They said going from Perks to Reckless probably makes them more consistent but have a lower ceiling. That's exactly what I said, which I hate when I say the same things as those kinds of people, but I do agree with the sentiment, so I mean I can't really say much else. G2 is the best team, and until someone beats them in a series, I'm going to say they're the best team. Rogue, I have Fnatic as my second place team. Going from Nemesis to Nisqy, even though I don't like Nisqy, is an upgrade. Going from Reckless to Upset is a downgrade. But it's about the same. I realized yesterday on the Infinity Edge podcast that Yamato Cannon is the coach for Fnatic now, and I started like laughing and freaking out, saying, "Oh, Fnatic is doomed. They're gonna get destroyed by Yamato Cannon." I don't really believe that. I think that a coach's influence, like, you can't take a bunch of good players and make them horrible, because if you have a couple bad drafts in a row, players are going to like actively tell you no. Like they're going to say, we're not doing that, we're doing this instead. And especially a team like Fnatic, I think that they'll give their players the ability to kind of do that. Isn't Tolkki the guy from T1? Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, so Fnatic, I know it's not good so far, but I still expect them to be one of the better teams in the long run. My next tier, these three teams are very, very similar. Rogue has the upside to go higher than where they are listed right now. Mad Lions too. I wouldn't be surprised if any of these teams made the finals. I was higher on Misfits than most people going into this. Hyrate has looked okay so far, nothing crazy. Razork had a really good game on Olaf, but that's just how the jungle is. Like, anybody can kind of do that. Vetio has looked okay so far. The reason I like Misfits long term is because of Kobbe and Vander. They might end up being a better real life team than DraftKings team in a lot of situations, but I'm fine with that. I think that they're going to have a lot of wins under the belt. Rogue, Aduamne is an upgrade over Finn, and they were talking about that on stream as well, saying that Finn had a different style, but ultimately Aduamne is probably an upgrade, and I completely agree. I think it's hilarious that CLG bought out Finn. It just makes absolutely no sense in my opinion. Whoever's like running CLG, that's pretty horrible. Pretty horrible. Then we have Mad Lions. Mad Lions has Armut has looked okay so far. Elio has looked okay so far. Humanoid, Carzzy, Kaiser. They're a good team. You can't be too results oriented. They lost to G2. Okay, everybody loses to G2. They beat Astralis. Okay, everybody's supposed to beat Astralis. They lost to Misfits, and this is where it's interesting because it depends on what your opinion it depends on what your opinion was of Misfits going into this match. For someone like myself, Misfits is a good team. I'm not going to downgrade Mad Lions. Other people who don't think Misfits will be good this season may look at Mad Lions and say, "Oh, they went 1-2 in the first week. How did they lose to Misfits?" And just like annoying stuff like that. So next week we're going to see them play against XL and Fnatic. Like if Mad Lions isn't 20% owned against XL, then it's pretty hilarious. I don't know why they're screaming downstairs, but people are screaming downstairs. Not much else to say about that, but if you hear that, that's what's going on. Is the first game on already for the NFL? Oh, it is on. Wow. Well, that stinks. I'll have to go watch that once this is finished. But yeah, so Mad Lions still a good team overall, even though they haven't had good results. Astralis against Vitality. This is a bad loss for Vitality. I didn't change the logo. It still says Origin on my sheet, but I think that Astralis is going to be the worst team in the league still. Schalke. Broken Blade has been okay so far. Nothing special. Gilius has been okay so far. Nothing special. Abadag has been okay so far. Nothing special. Neon and Limit. I'm not high on them for the entire season. I think they're going to lose a lot of games because of that. They won a base race against Vitality, which is not really a great sign. They lost a game against XL, which is not a great sign, and they lost a game against Fnatic, which is reasonable. So I'm not downgrading them, but I'm obviously not upgrading them. Vitality lost to Schalke, which is not great. They beat Misfits, which is a good win, and they lost to Astralis, which is a bad loss. So I'm going to leave them about the same. If other people think they're a top 4 potential team, then I'm going to probably have to fade them a lot. I don't think that's what the DraftKings sentiment is. I think that's just Deficio talking, but we'll have to see. XL lost to Rogue, which is expected, beat Schalke, which is okay, and then they are playing against G2 right now. Let me actually put that up. I'll mute it, but I would like to see how that's going. I would prefer if G2 did not blow them out, because I have a lineup that's in the top 10 right now. Yeah, it looks like they're going to get blown out. Because right now it's 7-4. They have a 2,500 gold deficit. That's probably going to turn into like a 17 kill win. Maybe. That's an interesting engage. Okay, nothing happened. All right. SK Gaming. Genax, Tinks, Blue, Jezu, and Treats. They looked a little bit better than I thought they were going to. in week 1, even though they went 1-2. They lost to G2 and they lost to Rogue. So going into next week, people may think, oh, well, SK, they were 1-2, they're a bad team. I think that they could pretty easily beat Schalke. This will be an interesting match. I'm not convinced that either team is really going to have gigantic kill upside in this matchup, but if I had to pick one, it'd probably be SK, because Gilius is the kind of guy that just ints when his team is losing, but like because he's trying to win, so it's not really a negative. So this is what my tier list was going into the week. Basically, I had G2 first, Fnatic second, Misfits, Rogue, and Mad Lions third, fourth, and fifth in no order, and then Schalke, Vitality, XL, SK, and then last was Astralis. I think that if you wanted to say bring Fnatic down, put Rogue up, I'd be fine with that. I do like Rogue. And hopefully Ottawamne is a big upgrade long term. Because Finn's really not that good. I don't know what CLG was doing. So I'm willing to leave it like this for now. LEC week 1. Let's go to the LCK. All right, so the LCK. Let's do this. Okay, so my original list had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I had Damwon in first. I will most likely still have Damwon in first. T1, Hanwha Life, and Gen G second, third, and fourth in no particular order. Nongshim, Red Force as a B team. Afrika Freaks, KT Rolster, Fredit Brion, and Live Sandbox as C teams, and then DRX as the worst team. I don't think I'm going to be able to keep it like that. Going into this, I was kind of trolling in my first video when I said I hate DRX. I hope they lose every single game. I think that Pyosik is a very good player. I've said that for about a year now. Kingan's been surprisingly good. Solka's been surprisingly good. It's not like I think they're a great team, but they're not by far the worst team, so I'm going to put them in the C tier with everyone else, at least. Let's take a look at who they beat. So DRX beat Afrika Freaks, which was an okay win. They beat Live Sandbox, which was an okay win, but it's nothing special. Like, they lost to Hanwha Life, they're supposed to lose to Hanwha Life. So I'm just taking them out of the dungeon by themselves. That's really all I'm doing with this. Gen G just lost to Hanwha Life, but that's not a downgrade for them. T1 just beat KT Rolster today, right? They lost to KT Rolster. They're 1-3 right now. So T1's doing a lot of weird stuff with their roster. I'm not afraid of this long term. They have a pretty tough schedule so far. They played against Damwon Gaming and lost. They played against Gen G and lost. They beat Hanwha Life, which is a good win in reality, and they lost to KT Rolster, which is a bad loss in my opinion. Still an A-tier team for me. Gen G has beaten Fredit Brion, which means nothing. They lost to Hanwha Life, which is maybe surprising to some people, but Hanwha Life is good. They beat KT and they beat T1, so I'm not changing their ranking. Hanwha Life, I'm surprised that more people weren't high on Hanwha Life going into the season. They're a good team. Beat DRX, they're supposed to. Beat Gen G, that's a good win. Beat KT Rolster, they were supposed to. Lost to T1, that's fine. Nongshim, 2-2 so far. Lost to DRX, which was a little bit surprising. Lost to Damwon Gaming, which they're supposed to. They beat Fredit Brion, and they beat Sandbox, which they're supposed to. I'm not changing them. Afrika Freaks lost to Sandbox, lost to Damwon, lost to DRX, beat Fredit Brion. The DRX loss was a little surprising to me. I think that they're fine, though. Keen, Dread, Fly, Bang, and Lahens. I think they'll be a middle of the table team. So like the top of the bottom tier. I don't think they're as good as Nongshim, Red Force, or any of the teams above that. KT, maybe I'm low on KT compared to everybody else. I'm not changing that though. Gen G, who else do I have to do? Afrika Freaks, DRX I already did. KT Rolster, KT roster. Doran is a pretty good player. I just don't love this roster. Other people like their roster more than I do. I'm not convinced by this, so I'm going to be leaving them in the C tier. This is what my tier list looks like for the LCK. There's not a lot to talk about in the LCK. I think everything has gone somewhat according to plan. I have had a really good early season in terms of picking games and giving my opinions on games in my write-ups in Discord. I think anybody in my Discord would agree with me. I've been pretty on point so far. And it comes down to talent evaluation and not overreacting to losses or wins. So that's that. So let's get rid of all of this. And then we have the LPL. So with the LPL, I mean, there are so many teams. Is this updated? I don't think this is updated. Actually, I think it is. So World Elite, I had them a little low as a top 8 team. They've looked really good so far. Breathe is better than, has played better than I thought he was going to. Shanks has also played better than I thought they were going to. Let's see what let's see who they've played though, just to be careful. World Elite. Beat Invictus Gaming, that's a good win. Beat LNG, that's a pretty good win. They're about the same as them. Beat Rogue Warriors, they're supposed to. Beat Thunder Talk, they're supposed to. Beat V5, they're supposed to. I think V5 is not as good as everyone may have thought. Yeah, my LPL rankings look weird. So World Elite is right there. Let's do EDG. So EDG, I'm surprised I had them this low on my tier list because I was pretty high on them, I thought, last year. They beat FPX, beat JDG, beat LGD, beat OMG. So the FPX win is okay. FPX hasn't been good so far this year. They kind of look like they're falling off of a cliff. JDG has been okay so far, but they've kind of underperformed. I'm not making a gigantic change off of this. Kanavi hasn't looked as good. They're not really playing around Kanavi the same way they did before, and Zoom isn't outplaying everyone either, so that's kind of concerning, but I think that's short term. I still have JDG as one of the best teams around. So then JDG beat BLG, they're supposed to, lost to EDG, that's whatever, lost to IG, that's whatever. I'm not overreacting to this. They're still in my S+ tier, which is basically they can win worlds. Top Esports beat LGD because they're supposed to. They lost to Rogue Warriors, which was a bad loss, and they lost to Sunning, which was on the first day, which wasn't totally surprising because Sunning is a pretty good team. It's just surprising that they did it the first match because everyone had a lot of questions about Sunning, and since then Sunning has been not very good. But these aren't easy teams to play against, so it's kind of give and take. SFM hasn't looked that great so far either. FPX lost to EDG, beat OMG, beat Rogue Warriors, beat Sunning, so they're about the same. It's kind of like a bigger middle tier in the LPL right now. I'm not in love with FPX. EDG should probably go up. RNG should probably go up. Invictus Gaming beat eStar, beat JDG, lost to LNG, lost to World Elite. They're still the same kind of IG. They're still a good team. Bilibili Gaming is interesting for me. I really don't know what to do with these teams. There's so many teams. OMG has not been good, and I don't think they're going to be getting much better. Let's go to the rosters. I think I'm just going to split them into 3 tiers until things kind of start shaking out. So OMG, New and Bright, nope. Aki, nope. Wooming Eric Cold, nope. You can go all the way to the bottom now. DMO was Thunder Talk. Chalizzy, Bliss, Captain, Twyla, Samdi, and Teen. Nope, you're at the bottom. Rare Adam, a lot of people were so much higher on Rare Adam than I was. I'm not surprised that they've started the season like this. Cube, Ikes, Leon, Fofo, iBoy, and Hong. Like, they did have a good, that one good tournament, but I'm still leaving them down here. LGD, Colt, Kui, Uniboy, Garvey, and Kramer. This team is really bad. E-Star, ZS, Hacker, Irma, Rat, Xiaoxi. I do kind of like what E-Star is doing, so I do think they're a little bit above the teams below them. Rogue Warriors is another team that they've had some good performances. Ziv, I think, is an okay player. Haro is a good player. Forge is a good player. Their bot lane is really questionable. That's really going to be like what makes or breaks Rogue Warriors this year. So they're probably right around there. V5, Longshi and Audi, Weiwei, Mole, Y4, Trigger, PP God. I don't know what they're doing, but I do think that ultimately V5 is going to be around E-Star, Rogue Warriors. RNG is definitely better than those teams. So far, Xiaohu has looked like he can play top lane, which is not very surprising to me at all. That's kind of the expected outcome for me. Wei has played well, actually. Cryan's been good, actually. Gala and Ming are good enough. LNG has been a little underwhelming relative to what I thought was going to... Like, I thought they were going to be a little bit more explosive, I guess. But they're an okay team. I expect they're going to stay about this level. So they beat Thunder Talk. They beat Invictus Gaming, which is a good win. And they lost to World Elite, which is somewhat reasonable. I think that they can beat World Elite. Billy Gaming. I love Billy Gaming. I think that they're a team that we can make money off of this year, so I'm going to keep them in the playoff contenders bracket. Semi-contenders, I just moved EDG up into this level because EDG has looked a lot better than many other teams. World Elite, Suning, you can probably put them actually down in the BLG, RNG, LNG, BLG. That's a lot of 3-letter acronyms. Team World Elite is in semi-contender. FPX is probably at the bottom of that or in playoff contenders. Then we have Invictus Gaming, Top Esports, JDG. So even if you wanted to put this is not in any particular order. So World Elite, EDG, IG, Top Esports, JDG is in the top tier right now. If these teams played any team below them, I would probably just want to be heavy on the top team. FPX, BLG, LNG, RNG, Suning are all pretty good teams. And I think those 10 teams are better than everyone below them. So V5, E-Star, Rogue Warriors, Thunder Talk Gaming, LGD, OMG, and Rare Adam. So this is basically how I see things right now. I would be somewhat surprised if we didn't end up where there's like an actual division between these teams. So that's how I'm going to leave it for now. It's just a way for me to like keep up to date. So I'm going to save that. And that's basically it. Thanks for checking out this video. Just wanted to give an update on how I kind of thought about some of these teams with any surprising early season stuff, but not much has changed. And like I've said in other videos, you really shouldn't have gigantic swings in opinion of these teams unless they've answered some kind of question for you. So that's how I see it right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.